The background force driving storms Dudley and Eunice.
Two things have happened. The jet stream's slipped further south and it's become energised. Winds in the core over 200 miles an hour.
We hear about the potential hazards caused by flooding.
Stay away from the coast, stay away from the rivers, and make good choices. If you cannot move, be prepared. Use these hours now to check out the things that you can do that reduce the impacts.
And heavy snow.
Because this persistent weather continues for several hours, it will become difficult then to get things moving again until it all clears away.
It's Thursday, the 17th of February, and you're listening to Weather Snap from the Met Office. Hello, I'm Clare Nasir, and this is Weather Snap, an insider's guide to the week's weather headlines. This week, the Met Office took the unprecedented step of naming two storms. Storm Dudley on Wednesday and Storm Eunice on Friday. From Wednesday afternoon into Thursday morning, Storm Dudley brought severe gales, heavy rain and spells of disruptive snow to the north. Hot on its heels, this time tracking from the southwest, comes Eunice, a more powerful and potentially destructive storm affecting large swathes of the UK on Friday. So what were the underlying conditions that brought us here? Here's Alex Deacon.
Why are we having such a stormy week? Well, for that, we have to look high up in the atmosphere at the jet stream, that fast-moving river of air that's always there in one form or another, but it wriggles around and it intensifies and it weakens. For most of January, the jet stream's been to the north of the country, allowing high pressure to sit close to the UK, which is why we had such a calm start to the year. But now two things have happened. The jet stream's slipped further south and it's become energised. Highly energetic jet stream with winds in the core over 200 miles an hour. Nothing unusual about that, but it's at the moment just tracking low pressure systems our way, and it's picking up these lows and really intensifying them. What drives the jet stream? Well, it's a contrast in the temperatures. So when cold air drives southwards from the Arctic and meets the warmer air across the tropics, that really intensifies the jet, and these kinks that you get in the jet stream, these little dips or troughs as we call them, it's in there that's a breeding ground for these intense low pressure systems. So Dudley was taken by the jet stream and tracked from the northwest down into the North Sea. But with Storm Eunice, the jet stream's just shifted that much further south and developed more of a kink in it. So Eunice is attacking from a different angle, coming up from the southwest, which is why different parts of the UK are being affected differently by these two storms. Dudley tracked across Scotland, bringing the strongest winds to southern Scotland and northern England. Eunice is coming up from the southwest, and it's just interacting with the jet stream as it approaches, so really intensifying. So these strong winds won't last long, but they could well cause some serious problems as that jet stream intensifies Eunice during Thursday night and into Friday morning. The jet stream remaining lively as well, no sign of it weakening too much, so the potential for further spells of wet and windy weather beyond Eunice through the weekend and probably well into next week.
Alex Deacon. Storm Eunice is expected to produce dangerous conditions as it tracks from the southwest on Friday. So much so, a rare red warning has been issued for the southwest of the country first thing on Friday morning until lunchtime, when winds will coincide with high tides. Let's hear from Crystal Moore, Deputy Director of Climate Resilience at the Environment Agency.
Crystal, thank you very much for joining me. So Storm Eunice hits the shores of the UK on Friday morning. There's so many impacts that we're concerned about, but obviously you're talking from a perspective of the Environment Agency, and there's great risk really for flooding in some parts of the country.
The Environment Agency does forecast flood, and we are looking at a coastal event, but also potentially some river flooding that's caused by tidal locking of high volumes of water that are already coming down the Severn.
Tell me what tidal locking is.
So that's when the tide comes in and forces water that is coming down the rivers back up. If you've got high flows in the rivers, then you can get bigger events around that. It's the kind of thing that barriers will help us with, like the London Thames Barrier, Boston Barrier, your Hull Barrier, they all help with managing those.
So we're expecting Storm Eunice to make landfall during the early hours of Friday morning, and obviously the winds will pick up ahead of it anyway. What are your greatest concerns through the first part of Friday?
Yeah, so there's a real timing effect here. So the peak of the risk happens around the high tide, so the high water mark, because then when you put on top of that the wind, the waves, and the surge, when those things all come together, it makes the story an impactful one. We've got really high water and we've got a really big surge that is forecast. That makes the water level even higher with big waves on top. Those waves can come over the flood defences too. So you get dangerous conditions. We talk about risk to life because people get swept away in those kind of conditions, which makes it a really challenging thing for the public and a really challenging thing to make sure that people are not fascinated by these storms. They stay away from those dangerous areas.
Which zone are you most concerned about?
There's a real channeling effect on the north southwest coast, funneling things up through the Bristol Channel there. So you get the land going ever narrower, which again amplifies the impact of the surge. So the surge becomes greater in that location because of the way the land is. So we're really on high alert throughout the early hours, all the way through to early afternoon at the top of the coast on that side of the country. So Cornwall all the way through to Yorkshire, etc. Anywhere where things get funneled more will amplify the impacts.
So obviously it's stay prepared, be aware of what's going on. Obviously the Environment Agency website has lots of information, including which rivers are on flood alert.
Yeah, so if you've got choices, choose to stay away from the danger zones. That would be my key message. Don't be a storm tourist. I've seen too many people have tragic incidents happen when they do that. Stay away from the coast, stay away from the rivers, and make good choices. If you cannot move, if your home is in threat, be prepared. Use these hours now to check out the things that you can do that reduce the impacts.
Crystal Moore. As a deep and powerful low-pressure system, Storm Eunice will deliver heavy rain, much of which will also turn to snow, chiefly on its northern and northwestern edge. There are snow warnings in force across Scotland, the higher ground of northern England, as well as Northern Ireland through Friday. So what hazards does this present for those living in these affected areas? Here's Senior Meteorologist with Met Office Aberdeen, Peter Sloss.
Peter, there's been snow already across more northern parts of Scotland and snow showers as well. But this is Storm Eunice. It's coming in from a different direction. So what's the setup for the northern part of Britain?
What is happening when Storm Eunice comes up, it brings on the forward edge some very mild air and a band of rain. As that rain moves northwards, we have the cold air across northern parts of the UK. Historically, that cold air is always stubborn to move away. So it does mean that as that mild air and the rain moves in towards the cold air across Scotland, we will see it quite readily turning to snow. And that is where we'll start to see the problems, not just from the very strong winds, but also some snow problems as well.
And I presume one of the key issues here is the amount of time it will be snowing.
Exactly. The very track of the storm moving from southwest to northeast, it's never going to get up across Scotland. And that's been our problem over the past few days, is how far north is the precipitation going to get? Because on the northern edge of this, it is always going to stay as snow. We'll never get the milder air pushing up to Scotland. And the problem is going to be, again, identifying where the heaviest precipitation will be. And it does look like, high ground from the Pennines up through the southern half of Scotland could well be quite badly affected by persistent sleet and snow. And it's not just the snow and the sleet, it's the combination of gale force winds with temperatures very close to freezing. And that's sort of hypothermic conditions, really, for anybody stranded outside for any length of time. And it's not just like a wintry shower passing through quickly. We could see these conditions for several hours, as I say, focusing more especially on the high ground.
And a lot of people traveling on Friday. So really it's be prepared and maybe make alternative plans if you are traveling on Friday.
Absolutely. All the main trunk routes from Scotland into northern England running north-south. And at some point along these sections, there will be this severe weather that we're speaking about. And I think we've got to be aware that, if you get a prolonged period of sleet and snow on the higher routes, they can quite easily get clogged up where the gritting lorries can't get to them, maybe lorries jackknifing. So that's where we could lead to some problems where we do get blockages. And because this persistent weather continues for several hours, it will become difficult then to get things moving again until it all clears away.
Peter Sloss, thank you very much.
My thanks to Peter Sloss. To stay up to date with the developing weather situation, please do visit the Met Office website, which offers detailed information on specific areas of the UK, and keep a regular eye on our social media channels. Before we go, here's Martin Bowles with last week's highs and lows.
Here are the extremes for last week, recorded between Monday the 7th of February and Sunday the 13th of February. The highest temperature of the week was 14.6 degrees Celsius, measured in Kew Gardens in southwest London on Wednesday. The coldest night was at Braemar, close to the Cairngorms in Aberdeenshire, where minus 8.1 degrees was measured early on Friday morning. This was the UK's coldest temperature of the year so far, though not of the whole winter, as minus 10 was recorded at the same site in December. The largest daily rainfall of the week was 58.2 millimetres, measured at Eskdalemuir in Dumfriesshire on Saturday. That's just over 2 inches in imperial measurements. The sunniest place was RAF Wattisham in Suffolk, where 8.4 hours of sunshine was measured on Friday.
Thanks, Martin. Once again, do please keep an eye on the regular Met Office storm updates posted on social media. For now, though, that's it for Weather Snap. Stay safe. I'm Clare Nasir. Editor is Adrian Holloway.
Weather Snap is a podcast by the UK Met Office. For the latest weather conditions where you are, download the Met Office weather app.